Hey, what is going on everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and today I felt like randomly making this video, so here I am recording this, and this is why I enjoy game collecting. There are a few reasons why. Now, this is kind of just mostly off the top of my head, and again, I kind of just felt like doing this video and formulated it within 5 minutes or so, and I grabbed some stuff, you know, as props here that are in front of this table that you can't see right now because it's not in frame, but that's going to be important here soon enough. So, first off, when it comes to game collecting, I half-jokingly call it organized hoarding, or hoarding with an excuse. And even though a lot of people might be laughing about that, I mean, it is kind of true in a way. I don't need video games to live by any means, and am I ever going to play through all these? No, I'm not going to. Do I need all these games? No, absolutely not. I don't need to. However, do I enjoy having them? Do they fulfill a purpose or whatever reason? Yes, they do. And why games? For me, I've always enjoyed having a type of collection of things I enjoy. Now, I mean, with the advent of music streaming and everything, I'd say that my collection for getting a real, my purpose for, you know, my drive for getting a really beefy music collection has died down quite a bit, especially since now a lot of the music I listen to is so easily available legally for free, whether it be off a streaming website or the artist I listen to just put it out for free that way. When I was younger, it wasn't as much like that, so I liked having a tape collection, I liked having a CD collection, and I still do that. My rule of thumb most of the time is I hate paying for digital downloads of music, I really do. But when it comes down to music, I have Google Play Music, so most of the music I listen to, I'm going to stream through there, and if it's something I really enjoy, I'll buy a physical copy of it, whether it be on CD or vinyl, because I enjoy vinyl as well too. Now, when it comes down to that, I don't buy nearly as much as I used to, so... And even when I do, a lot of times it's either an artist I really like, or I'll get the CD on sale, or both, depending on whatever it is. The point is, I've always enjoyed having a collection of something, even when I was younger, and even games I was collecting too. Now, my game collection has shuffled quite a bit, as is my music and movie collection, all that stuff. Some of this stuff I've had since I was a kid, you know, like I'm looking at one game right here that I'll grab real quick. Like this game right here, I remember... random story behind it. I ended up, like, at one point, because I was born into, you know, later generation of games and all that stuff, and then I didn't have a game system until the original Xbox, but then I had to go back and, like, all these older games, I had to go and track and, like, backtrack on these. But I remember with this, at one point I got a Sega Genesis from my cousin, and I got it for free. Thankfully, he was you know, awesome enough to do that. But I ended up getting it, and then I was getting Sega Genesis games for a while. And at one point, my mom just randomly told me, she's like, "Oh, hey, there's a supermarket over on the other side of town, and I noticed the other day when I was there that they were selling some games, and I think they had some of those Genesis games there that you're looking for." So it was one morning before school, and I got up earlier than normal, and she did as well too. And before school went, we went over there, and we bought the Sega Genesis games that they had, and then she kept them with her. I went to school, came back, played them a little bit. I think some of them were sports games I didn't care for too much, but they were so cheap that she's like, "Hey, you know what, you can get them, that's fine if you really want them." But there was this game, Phantom 2040, right here, and I still have it. And right there, that's one main reason why I really love game collecting. Whether it be something that you remember picking up as a kid, or it's something that you get later on and you didn't have an attachment to it back then, there's a sense of history behind it. This one right here, of course, this is all butchered up and everything, but this was at a rental shop, and even though a lot of people wouldn't want this copy, and if I ever see a complete in-box copy that is actually original and nicer, I will get it and probably replace this one. But when it comes down to it, this has a history behind it. Not only with the way it was cut out and mangled, but also it has a history with me. I was able to tell you all that story, and I still have the copy of the game. I've had this in my possession for over 10 years at this point. I can confidently say that. So for me, it's, yes, there is nostalgia there, but it's also history. Again, as I said, whether it be something that I remember actually picking up, or it be something that, you know, I pick up in 2 days, or I picked up 3 months ago. There is a history behind it, and that is always really cool to me, whether I fully know it or not. Another thing right here would be, I mean, if you look behind me, these aren't, you can't fully see my shelves on here, but they're just chock full of things. And if it's organized like this, it looks cool. Now, see, I'll put it like this. If you just have, like, let's say in your room, you just have a TV in the corner, and then you have a stack of, like, 50 games, and they're just all over the floor and all that stuff, you're not impressing anyone with that. That looks childish, that looks kind of sad, that looks really messy, it looks disorganized. You know, there's a lot of descriptors I can use for that. But something like this, I will say this, there is a method to the madness here, but it could be organized better. But point is, what I'm saying with this, what you're seeing, shelves make things look a lot better. So if you're getting into game collecting, I'd highly recommend getting shelves. You can get these at IKEA for like $25 or $35 a piece. They're really cheap. But point is, what I'm trying to make here is, if you can have it look nice, people are actually impressed by this. People who do play games and don't play games. You see, my friends who are gamers, who do play games, they come in here and they're shocked. They're like, oh wow, you have all this stuff, you have all these other things, but then they start getting nostalgic too. And it's even people who don't play games anymore, or they used to play games. I've had several people who visited my place before, and there might be something like this, where it's just like, oh hey, you play video games, oh this is cool, you have all of this stuff right here. I remember when I was younger, I had this one system, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it kind of flipped up and down. It was a Game Boy thing. Now that's a pretty common one, right? And normally at that point, I could be like, oh hey, hold on, and then I leave and I come back, because I have some gaming stuff in other rooms here, and I'm like, oh, do you mean this? A Game Boy Advance SP? And I open it up, show them, and they completely flip out. And just seeing that reaction on someone's face, that they're like getting to relive that a bit and just kind of having that rush of nostalgia all at once, is always a cool feeling, especially when you could do that to a friend or a family member. That's always awesome, and it just, you know, kind of gives you a bit of the warm fuzzies on the inside. But again, this is for me. This is to make the apartment look a little bit nicer, just so I don't have games strewn all over. I'm not trying to use this to impress or woo anyone. Now, even with the history bits, I wanted to mention this as well, too. I didn't have one of these growing up. I actually didn't have a Nintendo growing up or anything. But recently, I went to a thrift shop. I picked this thing up for less than $2. This is a Power Glove, and this thing's horrible, from what I know. It barely worked when it came out, and I can guarantee this thing doesn't work now, mainly due to the fact that I don't have all the parts for it. But you know why I bought this? So, well, one, it was cheap, and two, I think it's an awesome piece of gaming history, and I just put it on top of one of my shelves. I brought it down for the sake of this video, but I put it on top because I'm like, you know what? To me, having this as a gaming type decoration, totally worth the $2 or dollar and some change that I end up paying for it. So that's pretty cool with that. Now, when it comes down to other things as well, too, I want to talk about the stuff I have on the table here. So I'm going to have a picture on screen, and there's going to be some stuff that I have highlighted. Now, the stuff I have highlighted or sectioned off, what does all that have in common? Yes, they're all older games. Older as in they're not current generation. Yes, they're all disc-based. There's no cartridge-based games on there. But I'm going to tell you here straight up, this is more for me. These are all games I used to have. Now, you might be saying, what the hell are you talking about, dude? The games aren't on your table. You obviously still own them. I own them, but I don't still own them, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, at this present time, I do, but all the games that I highlighted are games that I purchased at one point in time and sold. Some of them I purchased and sold multiple times, and it's one of those things where every single one of the games that I show, at least in my opinion, is good in some way. I wasn't selling them because they were bad, and I have stories behind them. Super Mario Sunshine, for example, I remember I ended up selling this because I sold my GameCube and almost all the games I had for it. I think there was like the Zelda games I ended up keeping just kind of for collector's purposes because they were a bit more valuable. But I ended up selling this because I didn't have a system played on anymore. This game right here, Modern Warfare 2, I remember I got this and I beat it and I played multiplayer a bit, and at the time I just wasn't really interested in video games. That's a whole other video I can do. And I think I have done it actually, I'm pretty sure I've done it. But I just wasn't that interested in video games, so I ended up selling it off. And then I had a few copies of them because I would get a copy of it for cheap and then sell it for a higher price. So I was kind of profiting off Modern Warfare 2 for a bit, and I think this is probably like my 4th or 5th copy of Modern Warfare 2, and I've just kept it. This game right here, Dead Rising, I remember at the time, I picked it up, I played through it several times, and I was like, probably not going to play this for a bit, if at all ever. I want to get some money for it so I can get other games. So at that point, I didn't have the money to get other games that I wanted. I used it to help me get different games, but I had to get rid of this one. Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. Actually, I remember why I got rid of this. This is one of those GameCube games that I ended up getting rid of because, well, no, I kept it because it was a bit more valuable and I liked the Metal Gear Solid series, but at the time I was heavily into PSP modding, So I ended up trading this game to my friend for his PSP had broken at the time, so he gave me his memory card and his battery for a copy of Twin Snakes. And with that, I was able to make a Magic Memory Stick and a Pandora's Battery. Shout out to all the PSP modders out there if you know what I'm talking about. So I would say at the time that was a fair trade, but later on in life, this thing appreciated in value, I wanted to play it, so I had to fork out the cash to play it, because this is like a $50, $60 game now at this point. It's gotten its value back. I don't know if it went back down, but I know the value did go up on this, so I had to pay for this game again. This game right here, I ended up picking up, and then I sold it because it was too scary. Yeah, that was my reason for selling it, I'm not even kidding. Then these two games right here, I actually don't really remember why I sold these. I think I sold these because I just wasn't really playing them all that much. So I ended up getting them recently because they were cheap. And that's a thing with all these games too when it comes to monetary value. Now, I know you all had heard me say this, I was like profiting off Modern Warfare 2 for a bit. I know there's a good, I would say like a decent to good business in like reselling games and all that stuff. And as you all can tell, I'm not really too into reselling. I do give games to people, like I'll give games to friends. I've, sold and traded off games before, but many games, even if I won't play them for a while, there's a chance that I want to play them later on. And, if I do sell them, so be it, I can get them back later on. But I know all these games right here, I either got through trades or I got for a few dollars. The only games out of those that I mentioned that I really had to pay quite a bit for were Silent Hill. I think I paid $20 or $30 for it. I think around 20, and I got this because I was working at a game shop at the time and I was able to get it on discount. And this one I ended up paying like 40 something for it, I want to say recently, because I really wanted this game. But point is right here, these ones didn't set me back too much. These ones did set me back a bit more, and that could have been avoided if I just didn't sell off the games, So it's one of those things, it depends on where you are in life as well too. At the time, I was younger, I was a kid, or I was a teenager when I sold them. I didn't have as much cash to play around with. Now that, honestly, and I'm being as humble as possible, I'm not bragging or anything, but because I'm more financially stable, I don't feel the need to sell off my games and all that stuff. So it's not that big of a deal. Like, if I have to pay $50, $60 for a game, it's no longer weeks of saving to get that game. Now there's some downsides to having a game collection as well, too. First off, behind me, even though it looks cool, it takes up space, and that's a thing. And also when you move, it can be a bit intense categorizing everything and making sure everything's proper and all that stuff as well too. So you gotta have the space for it. Another thing is the money. You gotta make sure you have the money for it. And self-control kind of goes into that as well too. Now, thankfully, as I said, I make sure my bills are paid, I make sure I can save a bit of cash, and I make sure, I still have some money for fun times and all that stuff. But I also, I like spending money on this. Now, I didn't get this overnight. Like, some people might be looking at this and it's really daunting. I didn't get this collection overnight. It didn't even take me a month to get. Like, this is kind of a culmination of stuff I've gotten in the past few years, or even when I was a kid. I still have stuff from in there, and I could probably pick it out by hand as well too. The point is, this wasn't just like an overnight thing. It's taken me a while, and yeah, if I wanted to, I could dump a bunch of money in this, and if I started over, just buy a bunch of games back, but that would be thousands of dollars all at once, and I don't want to spend all at once. But I have spent that to get this collection here. So it is a bit of money that you're going to put into, but it's one of those things. I'm not investing in this for monetary gains. I'm doing this for my own personal enjoyment, and if you can safely spend money on yourself to have some fun, I don't see anything wrong with that, especially if you're not going to go into debt and it's not going to set you back or anything. One example, because people see wastes of money in different types of things, but one example would be the sound system I have in my car right now. So I have some subwoofers in my car, right, and I have an amplifier in there as well too. I got them right after high school. Now, I remember at the time, my parents kind of gave me a bit of grief, and they were saying, oh, that's such a waste of money, and they were pretty much saying they saw it as a huge waste of money. And I said to them, and I asked, if I'm going to use it, so I drive almost every day, if I'm going to use these subwoofers every single time I turn on the car, how is it a waste of money? Now, I did spend a good amount at the time. I spent, and even though I saved money on it, saved money on the stuff, compared to retail value, I spent about $600 on everything there. So now thinking about it, it's been over 5 years since I've owned all of that equipment. I've actually gotten a different car as well too, and I transferred the equipment from my old car to my new car, At this point in time, this is stuff where I still drive on an almost daily basis, and every single time I turn on my car, those subwoofers get used. If I am actively using them, I don't see that as a waste in money. I see that as a personal investment for myself for some enjoyment right here. And again, if I get enjoyment out of this, then I don't see it as a waste. Now, there are some games where I felt like I've wasted my money on, where I buy them and they're not good and I just don't enjoy them, and it happens. You know what? It happens. But hey, you know what? That's going to happen with everything. Just like there might be some that you really enjoy and maybe you've gotten a few of whatever it is, or even going back to car audio. I mean, so car audio and equipment, all that stuff is expensive, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get, a subwoofer and never be disappointed with it. Maybe you'll spend $100 on a subwoofer and it doesn't perform or sound as nice as you want it to. Maybe it is defective and blows after 2 days. It depends on what it is. Now, another issue with the collecting, the space, and self-control as well too is also, I'm going to point you back to the table. Now, there's a few games there that I'm going to highlight again. What do these games have in common? These are all games that I have duplicate copies of, and I can explain it here. So some of them I do have purposes for. Like this game, for example, Final Fantasy Origins, and I actually use this for video, I have 2 copies of it. I have a regular version and I have a greatest hits version. Why do I have them? Not only from the aesthetic differences on there, and this is still kind of with that, but check this out, just quick lesson in case you don't know. The regular version has a black back on it. Normal North American PlayStation 1 release, nothing wrong with that. Now, this one right here, and I've done a whole video on it, so hopefully I'll try and pop this in, because I'm not going to explain all the differences on here. Legitimate game, but it has a silverback. I've never owned a true, original silverback PS1 game. I wanted one, so I have the variant of it. It was cheap enough, I was able to justify it, plus I made a video out of it, educating people on it as well too, so that's why I have duplicate copies. This game right here, Destiny, this is one of those games I sold and I purchased a few times because I bought it, it wasn't that good, and it's still not my favorite game, but I ended up getting several copies of it at one point because it was quite cheap, and my brothers enjoy it, and I have a few other Xbox Ones, so whenever my brothers come into town, we can fire up Destiny and play on different TVs, different systems, and have a lot of fun with it. That's why I have multiple copies of this. Now, then also comes, the silly mistakes part, which is where the rest of these are at. Final Fantasy 12, I bought one copy because I think it was cheap, it was a few dollars or something, and then I got the other one at one point through a trade, but still, when it comes down to that, I legitimately remember I did not think I had a copy of Final Fantasy 12 because I didn't play this game when it came out. So I got a copy and I forgot about that and I got a second one. Now it's not like each one set me back $30 or $40, it was probably a few dollars at most, but still, I don't have a need to have 2 copies of this game, but I did because I forgot I owned one of them. Same thing when it comes to Gran Turismo 4. Now, if I was a huge Gran Turismo 4 fan, and I actually realize this, if you look at the back, there is a huge difference in the back here, so if you're into that type of collecting where you want all those different aesthetic differences and everything, you got it, but still, I remember I got a copy of Gran Turismo 4, and I forgot I got it, and then I found another one for cheap. Each of these I paid $1 or $2 for, and so I have 2 copies of Gran Turismo 4. I don't need 2 copies of Gran Turismo 4. But finally, right here, I did kind of have a reason for this. At one point, I did have Splinter Cell. I think I did end up selling it. I'm pretty sure I did. But I guess I acquired a copy for cheap at one point in time, and then a few years later, I wanted to get into soft modding Xboxes again. So I bought some gear from a friend. Like, I ended up, I got a Xbox, I got a breakaway cable to end up fashioning my own Xbox to USB adapter cable, and I ended up getting Splinter Cell, because I remember at the store, I even sat there and I was like, huh, I can easily do this with Splinter Cell. Do I have a copy of Splinter Cell? Do I have a copy of Splinter Cell? I don't remember, but it's $2, so I might as well buy it. So I bought a second copy of Splinter Cell, go home, see the first copy in the stack. So again, my own negligence right there. I don't need 2 copies of Splinter Cell, but I have 2 copies of them. I guess if I want to soft mod 2 Xboxes at the same damn time, I can now. But again, organization and self-control really comes into that. Do you want to be spending all that money on there? Do you want to, have this collection here? But also another thing is, and I'm not even getting into this, But I like collecting game consoles as well too, and I have multiple variants of different game consoles for different reasons. Now, some of them I do have reasons for, this one has a certain modification, this one's a certain motherboard, this one is a rare variant of some kind. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh, well, this PS2 was $2 and I couldn't pass it up, so I bought it. Like, I'll have times like that. So, again, self-control. Do you have the stuff? Do you have the money that you can, explicitly put into that? And what are you going to do? Now, when it comes to getting rid of this stuff too, there's times I do trades, there's times I will sell things as well, and there's times, I will give things to people so either my family or some of my friends will benefit. Like, 2 games I'm thinking of, for example. One of them, Skyrim, on Xbox 360. I got it first on Xbox 360, played it. It is a glitchy mess on there. Do not recommend playing on 360. But one of my friends, later on I got it on PC. One of my friends, he didn't have a gaming PC. I let him borrow it on 360. He absolutely loved it. So as a going away present, I got him something else too. But point is, as a going away present, I was like, hey, you know what? You can keep Skyrim. The fact that you like it so much, you're going to get enjoyment out of it. I don't need it. I got the PC version. You can go ahead and have it. It's all good. Another one of my friends, I ended up, shortly after it came out, I got Rise of Tomb Raider on Xbox One. Played through, I don't know, like a third of it, maybe. Didn't touch it for a while, and recently I got Rise of Tomb Raider, the 20th anniversary, celebration version or whatever it is, on PS4. I picked up that version because it was on sale, and I wanted the superior copy on there, at least on consoles. Because I have the PS4 Pro, I want to utilize that. I was not going to touch the Xbox One version of it. Best Buy was going to give me $3 for it. My friend I knew would enjoy Rise of the Tomb Raider, and he never owned a copy of it. So you know what? I decided to wrap it up and give it to him as a present, which hopefully I give it to him at this point. I haven't seen him in a minute, so I still need to actually see him. But point is, on that, he ended up benefiting off that. Now, some people might be saying, oh, you're giving your friends used games. You know what? If you are that superficial about something where you have to receive something new, what is wrong with you, man? Plus, it's also me. And by that, I mean, I take very good care of my stuff. My friends and family who know me know that I keep my stuff in quite good condition, especially discs and games and all that other stuff. So if they buy a game from me, or someone buys a game from me, or someone gets or borrows a game from me that has scratches on it or has a bunch of smudges, that had a previous owner. If it is a game that I have owned since day one, it is not going to have any scratches or anything else on it. So I have damaged a few. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. There's been a few games I have messed up, but most of the time, I'd say 98 or 99% of the time, when I get something and then I later let go of it, it is going to be in the same condition I got it on day one, or even in better condition if, let's say, I put a new case in it, or I clean it, or I resurface the game. But probably my final thing on here that I can talk about is, it's interesting. I don't know how long this video is. I know it's under 30 minutes, but I made this long video just talking about game collecting. I have a channel where I talk about video games. It revolves around video game stuff, whether it be consoles or games or gameplay or modifications or, different types of things, hardware, software. I enjoy video games. I enjoy the gaming scene. I enjoy, the whole gaming world and everything that this has to offer, and I find it fascinating. And I think it's neat. And also I can share with you also. It's pretty cool as well too. There's a lot of other peers out there and a lot of other individuals who find this fascinating. For whatever reason, you tell me. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be very much appreciated. And if you absolutely hated it, a dislike is fine as well too. But let me know if you're into game collecting or not. And, if you are, what are your reasons?